Hey everyone, Meet Kevin here. Today I want to talk to you about why Grant Cardone owns where he lives and how he hides where he lives and some of the benefits that he gets out of structuring his ownership the way he does. So if you're interested in making money and building wealth by investing, whether it's through real estate or stocks or funds, I don't really care what it is, you're gonna learn some really cool things about why somebody wealthy like Grant Cardone, the promoter of 10xing your life, would own a multi-million-dollar condo in Miami. Well, let's get to the bottom of it, and I'll break down the structures and impacts for taxes and wealth and debt and everything, all in this video. So let's get started. So I think first things first, I should probably say that my goal in this video isn't to bag on Grant Cardone. I've made other videos about Grant Cardone before. You probably have seen some of them, and I just want to make it very clear that the purpose of this video is to be totally educational, uses information publicly available on public records. It's just information that maybe you haven't searched for before, or maybe you wouldn't even know to search for it. But I'm gonna walk you through all of it, and really, the purpose of this video is to be educational for everybody. And I actually think that if Grant Cardone saw this video, he would approve of the video, because the wealth building strategies that I'm gonna share with you right here would actually enable you to go invest with him. Because in case you don't know, Grant Cardone is what's known as a syndicator. In real estate, there exist large apartment complexes, and ordinary people like myself alone, you alone, or Grant Cardone alone generally can't pool enough money by themselves to purchase a large apartment complex. And I'm talking 200-300 unit apartment complexes where you literally have 200 to 300 families living in individual units and paying rent every month. And these properties need to be managed and maintained. And how do you even get financing on deals like that? Well, that's where you can enter a real estate syndicator. And Grant Cardone is the promoter of his own syndication called Cardone Capital. And basically a syndicator is somebody like Grant Cardone who can say, hey, I have found a 200 unit apartment building, and this building is selling for, I don't know, let's say $60 million. $60 million means each unit is selling for a cost of about $300,000. So when you or I think about buying a $300,000 house to live in, think of, okay, that's cool, like I can buy this single family house, I could live in it, I could turn it into a rental, maybe I could fix it up and flip it for a profit, but how am I gonna buy 200 doors at one time for a cost of $300,000 a door at $60 million? How the heck does that work? Like, who comes up with $60 million? Well, this is where you get somebody like Grant Cardone who comes in and says, hey, I got some money, which I'll show you in a moment how he got the money. That's the part of the title of the video. But anyway, you take somebody like Grant who says, hey, well, we could buy this $60 million property and we're gonna find a bank to give us, let's say, 65% of that. That is, a bank's gonna give them $39 million.
And I guarantee you, Cardone Capital, we're gonna borrow as much money as we can.
But he's gotta come up with this extra $21 million. And that's where some of his money comes in. You know, maybe he wants to throw in $1 million into the deal. Maybe he wants to throw in $5 million into the deal. Generally wants to throw in a little bit of money. And then he's gonna ask you and everybody on the internet to come in and bring him the next $16 million. And that's just generically how Grant Cardone makes money. See, if he goes and buys this $60 million deal, he might charge you a 1% placement fee or $600,000. If he goes to sell the deal, he might charge you that 600 grand again. And there's usually a management fee of how much money is actually under management. So there's gonna be that money charged as well. But this video isn't about how his syndication works. It's all about how he gets this money to start funding the deals that he works on. How does he get the initial money? And what does it have to do with the place he lives in? Well, that's what this video is all about. See, it's not uncommon for Grant Cardone to say, hey, come invest with me. I'm putting my own money into this deal. Now, it's entirely possible that so many of you get excited to go invest with Grant Cardone that Grant doesn't even have to put any money into the deal anymore. He can go buy a $60 million deal and take the profits of managing the deal and placing your money into the deal and make money as a real estate syndicator without any of his own money into the deal, which is great. But generally, you have to start with your own money. And where Grant Cardone gets the money is, well, the interesting part, because it's gonna help you learn how you can build wealth as well. So being curious about real estate syndication, I thought I would do a little bit of Googling, and I found this Investopedia article on Grant Cardone. And in this article, we could see the first step in investment. And I thought, okay, well, that seems pretty interesting. Let's see what his first step in investing was. And it says here that at 29, Cardone finally put his years of studying real estate into practice. Bought a single family house that initially did well. However, after a few months, the tenants left, Cardone's cash flow dried up, and he hated the fact that he had to lessen his focus on his main business in order to find new tenants. And then I realized, wow, this sounds very familiar to exactly what Grant Cardone says on his YouTube channel, which is that you shouldn't invest in single family houses, that you should rent wherever it is that you live, and you should not own where you live. Instead, you should only own things that you could rent out, mostly multifamily real estate. But then every time I think about owning multifamily real estate, I realize, the barriers to entry for multifamily real estate are kind of high. If you want to go buy a big apartment building, you usually need like 35% down, especially if you want to get into 10 units or 20 units or 30 units like Grant Cardone suggests. You need 25 to 30% down, which if I wanted to buy even a 10-plex, like Ben Mala says, for $1 million, well, I'm gonna need 350 grand to buy that. That's a lot of money, and a lot of people don't have that kind of money to start with. But Grant Cardone says the single family is bad and you shouldn't own the single family.
If it's got one door, what do I say? If it's got one door, don't invite the whore.
Which is frustrating because single families and duplexes and triplexes and fourplexes let you buy these units, fourplex being 4 apartment units, with just 3.5% down or 5% down if you live in the unit. But Grant calls those deals the small deal and says you don't want to invest in the small deal because they're gonna, like this article says, take away from your business and it might be difficult to find new tenants. So then I keep reading here and I see that Cardone quickly sold the property for a break-even price. Well, if it was that bad, I guess it's not bad that he at least broke even, and swore that he would never purchase single-family real estate as an investment ever again. Then the article goes into talking about how Grant Cardone bought a $1.9 million property, a 38-unit apartment complex, with just a down payment of $350,000, which is also kind of interesting because $350,000 divided by 1.9 million is only an 18% down payment. I've never heard of even a regular investment property selling with a loan of just 18% down, which to me just makes me suspicious as to, was there money coming from maybe another investment that he sold that he was able to combine into this? Did he go buy, another deal, a different deal that we don't know about? Something's missing here. Or maybe the article just got things wrong, but let's keep reading here and then we'll do some digging and exploring here. So the article then continues and says that in 2012, Cardone Capital, so now he's opened a fund, that's the name of his current syndication, which I explained at the beginning of the video. In 2012, Cardone Capital made what was dubbed Florida's largest private party acquisition of multifamily real estate. It consisted of a portfolio of 1,016 apartments spread over 5 apartment complexes for $58 million. So, I hate to say it, but it's kind of frustrating reading this article because reading the article, I'm kind of left clueless as to how am I possibly supposed to build wealth like that if the article says he broke even on a single family, would never purchase single family again, and then somehow put 18% down on a 38-unit apartment complex in 1987, which was right before the 1989 real estate crash, and then somehow went from a break-even deal to buying a 38-unit deal right before a real estate crash to all of a sudden being able to buy a $58 million deal in 2012 with 1,016 units?
I got fish. I just caught him. You want him?
So a lot of this just really got me thinking, some of this just isn't adding up. Something has to be missing here. And I don't really care about what's missing for the sake of trying to prove somebody right or somebody wrong. I'm curious because I like to know how other people make money so that I too can make money. I mean, I don't know about you, but look, I like making money, okay? So I thought I'd do a little bit of Googling. I had heard that Grant Cardone lived in the Hollywood Hills area before from his YouTube channel where he's talked about having lived there in the past, and I thought I'd give that a Google. And so just by typing in Grant Cardone Hollywood House, you could see that it looks like in 2012, why is Grant Cardone selling Hollywood home? HGTV selling LA with Grant Cardone, 2011. Bird Street Homes for Sale, 1401 Oriole Drive, former home of Lionel Richie and Grant Cardone. Oh, well, that was easy. Aha, look at this. So it looks like Grant Cardone bought this property for $7 million in 2002. And sold the place in 2012 after the financial crisis for $17 million. That's awesome. And this is a single family house that he sold for $10 million more 10 years later through the Great Recession. So basically he made $1 million per year through the Great Recession owning a single family house. But wait a minute, I thought he bought 1,000 units in 2012 for $58 million. In 2012, Cardone Capital made what was dubbed as Florida's largest private party acquisition of multifamily real estate. 5 complexes, 1,016 units. Well, all right, well, let's give that a Google. Grant Cardone acquires South Florida apartment portfolio. Oh, that's interesting. Grant Cardone announced today the purchase of 5 Southeast Florida apartment communities in Palm Bay and some other areas here through his real estate investment company, Pacific Star 5 Inc. Well, that's different than what they said here, because they said it was Cardone Capital here, but maybe he changed the name over time. The entire portfolio was purchased for $59 million from this charitable foundation and included 1,016 units. So we're looking at the correct deal, but look at this. This deal was announced on November 20th, 2012, which is just shy of 4 months after he made a $10 million profit on the sale of a single family house. That would be an interesting way to get the down payment for a big multifamily acquisition. Investing in a single family house. I wonder if he owns a single family house now as well. So I just typed in Pacific Star 5 here into Google, and look what comes up. It's a company in good standing. You've got the address of the company here. You've got these annual reports. Looks like there were some tax delinquencies at some point in 17 and 16 and 14. That's odd, and 11. Those are a lot of late filings, I guess. But this is from 2012, and oh, yep, there you go. Look, Grant Cardone as president, and then there's that Los Angeles address, that single family house that made him a lot of money. There's his signature. So it looks like the company he bought all of these units in was registered to that house that he owned in LA. So, I mean, all this lines up so far. Now, here I talk about the steps as to how I was able to find out where Grant Cardone currently lives. It's a pretty easy to find. It's very public, but I'm gonna go ahead and conceal that in this video. Wow, it's like 5,000 square feet. It's actually pretty nice. This is pretty epic.
So I'm gonna throw this in the freeze. I shouldn't be eating this. I ought to throw it in the trash can, but
Not a fan of that backsplash, but this is a pretty cool place. Well, after a little bit of research into this property, I found that it's owned by GC Expansion LLC, and that is Grant Cardone's signature, at least I'm pretty sure, based on Grant Cardone signature in Google. Yep, kind of hard to mistake that. It's all over the internet. It looks like this loan is a revolving line of credit. That's a 20-year term. I think he has a $7.4 million home equity line of credit on his condo. And there's his signature. So in other words, Grant Cardone not only owns his home, but he has almost a $7.5 million loan against it as like a big giant credit card to potentially, and this is an assumption, go fund multifamily deals. But this is a single family. So remember at the beginning when we were using the whiteboard, we said, hey, Grant might be able to partner with you by putting $5 million into the deal. What if that $5 million came from his home equity line of credit? And then in theory, if a bunch of you invested with him, he could pay himself back and then go buy another deal. So it's kind of like he's using his single family house as a big source of leverage to be able to buy multifamily deals. Now, because he holds the property in an LLC, it's also potentially possible that he's able to write off more of his expenses. See, technically, you're only allowed to write off interest on up to $750,000 a year when you buy a new property. Obviously, talk to a CPA. But Grant Cardone has a loan that's 10x that size. And so all around, this is actually pretty interesting. Grant Cardone has consistently throughout his career owned single-family houses because they've enabled him to buy multifamily real estate, and he's still doing the same thing today. Then he rents from himself, probably to be able to write off more things related to the property. I guess in theory, he could probably now depreciate the property differently. He could probably write off improvements or homeowners association dues to pay for like the gym and the pool and other things at the property, which of course that's just totally speculation, and he'd probably have to pay income taxes on the income that he paid himself, but he is kind of able to determine what his own rent is, so I guess there are a lot of factors at play here with renting from your own LLC. I think this would be a good place to say that you should probably talk to a CPA, and of course, press subscribe. But why then would Grant Cardone tell you not to buy single-family real estate if he's doing it? Well, maybe Grant Cardone realizes that if you buy a house, you might also be able to build some net worth and get a home equity line of credit, or buy a below market wedge deal like I teach you how to do in my real estate investing course linked below. And then you might be able to buy your own multifamily deals without investing with Cardone Capital. But I guess if you didn't have a house, you wouldn't be able to have a home equity line of credit, you wouldn't be able to build wealth with wedge deals, and I guess you wouldn't be able to buy multifamily real estate. And so the only way you could buy multifamily real estate would be by, well, I guess, investing with Cardone Capital's syndication, because if you didn't own a house like he does, it'd probably be a lot harder to actually build the wealth like he did. Which, by the way, if you like the idea of investing in a real estate syndication, consider clicking the link down below for Invest with Meet Kevin. I'm considering, no guarantees, maybe offering something to compete with Grant Cardone to give you more options. Of course, I personally recommend you try to make as much money as you can with the smaller deals first. And that's why I also have a course for real estate investors and managing properties yourself, linked below. I don't know about you, but this all seems like a very confusing circle. And it's 5:09 in the morning, and I think it's time to go to sleep. So I think without further ado, I gotta end this one with a good old, folks, don't sue me, bro. The information contained in this video is all public record, and this video is for entertainment purposes only, and it's all totally speculation based on just random stuff I was able to Google online. So thanks for hanging out with me, and we'll see you next time.